not good because wood chips are not a naturally occurring mulch. You never find that. Right, they won't do that. So if you use wood chips fresh in your garden, they can cause problems. So I typically do not recommend wood chips except for paths or around perennial plants because their weed suppression, they will suppress weeds, but that's great around perennials and deep-rooted plants and on paths, but if you put them in your vegetable garden, they'll suppress your lettuces and all your shallow-rooted annuals. So we typically recommend wood chips on the paths only, and then either leaf or grass material for mulch on your beds.
Straw?
Huh?
Pine straw?
You can, it's not the best. It's better for your paths or for landscaping, but it's not going to decompose near as quickly and feed the soil as well, and can't add a bit to the acidity of it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I haven't set these up completely because I want y'all to be able to see how I set these demonstrations up so that you could do them for people that you want to teach. So again, what are the two principles we're going to try to test out here?
Not disturbing the soil.
Not disturbing the soil, or plowed versus not plowed,
Mulching.
and mulching, okay? Now, if you have sandy soil, these might look a little bit different, or if you're in a different area of the world, all we're trying to do here is contrast the way we typically approach something to the way God does it. So you can come up with your own experiments to be able to contrast that, you know, with what you have. But we're talking about particularly clay soil here. So Matthew, can you use that watering can to fill up those two jars here? So the first thing we're going to demonstrate is plowed versus not plowed. So we have here a few clods of dirt. I want you to look at them. Obviously there's a little difference in color here. But this soil is the plowed soil. And this is the unplowed soil. You see how this is, what can you notice about them? Which one looks hard and which one looks soft?
Soft.
So you see it's like crumbling off, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty hard here.
Yeah.
This was literally soil that we pulverized, and for a previous class we got it wet as part of the test, and then when it dried, here it is. It's a nice clod of soil, yeah.
But that's not clay.
Yeah,
It is?
yeah,
Oh.
but it's from undisturbed soil, so it has some more organic matter in it than the plowed clod does here. So you see it?
Yes.
And you see this one has a few roots
Yes.
and some fungus growing in it, right? This one doesn't have a whole lot, does it? Because we've kind of broken it all up, pulverized it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to test what happens when these come into contact with water. So what do you think is going to happen to the unplowed clod when we put it in the water?
Absorb.
It'll soak up more, yeah.
Soak up more?
Fall apart.
What do y'all think is going to happen to the plowed clod?
It's gonna start
Harder.
degrading.
Sit there.
Run off.
Run off?
Not gonna get, not
a
gonna
wet
soak.
break.
It's gonna be.
Can you bring both those jars and hold them up, and I'm going to
Go ahead. I'm not getting wet.
try to put your hands underneath so we can see through the jar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You want me to help?
Yeah, you can hold one.
Okay.
You can hold one. All right. You all ready?
Yep.
I'm going to try to hold on where I can just, what I want to do to demonstrate is, and if you're doing this, you don't want to drop them in right away. You want to just hold them halfway for a while, and we'll see what happens, and then we'll put them the rest of the way in, okay? On your mark, you ready to see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your mark, get set, go.
Oh my gosh.
Erosion.
Oh my gosh. Just the opposite of what I
Wow, me too, Tom.
Yeah, I thought that's compacted and it would hold harder.
thought.
Well, that's the erosion that you were talking about for the hard clay.
That
And that one is absorbing it.
I'd still drink that one on your left.
Yes.
Huh.
And this one's literally, like, if I'm not careful, it would fall apart of my fingers because it's so, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not compacted. This one, I'm about to lose it, actually, because it's dissolving.
That's
So I'm going to
fast.
drop them in. It'll drip a little bit of water
That's
on
fine.
y'all if that's okay. Actually, that one's not really sinking, is it? Come on, buddy.
You thought I'd drop.
Okay. So you see the difference here.
Huge.
Drinking water, toilet water.
So this clod here was hard, but it was held together by compaction, not by anything else. Kind of like when, you know, you get something wet, maybe like paper or something, and then it gets hard and then it's, you know, sticks together. And so because it's only compression or compaction that's holding it together, once water comes into contact with it, it breaks those bonds.
Kind of like particle board.
Kind of like, because it's like the dryness, it dried to itself, but once you get it wet again, there's nothing holding it together and it just falls apart. This one here is held together by actually all these little solutions that the microorganisms create when they are decomposing the organic matter in the soil. And it's primarily what we call humic acid is holding all these particulate together. Even though it's loose and you could crumble this up easily in your hand,
Right.
it's glued together, and those glues are not water soluble. So when water comes into contact with that soil, it does not dissolve the soil, and therefore the soil doesn't wash away. Over here, you see the foam on the top of this soil here?
Yeah.
You know what that is? All the humic acid that was in the soil just got pulverized and dislodged, and now it is washing away from it. And so as you can see, when it rains on your field and your water looks like this running off of it, it shows you that your soil does not have a healthy soil structure. Because soil is not just the sum of its ingredients. It's also the structure of the soil and how it's put together.
Okay.
Our house here has a building materials list. But if a tornado came along and made a big pile of it, it would still be the same material list, but it would not function the same way because of the lack of structure of those materials. So the structure in this soil here allows it to function a certain way and react to water a certain way that once you pulverize and you destroy that structure, does not have the same effect. Now what's interesting is your soil can heal itself amazingly because God's built in forgiveness. And I had one plot of soil ground that I really worked it to get it how I wanted it to be. And then we mulched it and we stopped touching it once we laid the beds out. And originally it was water washing off like this color, and it was flooding the top of this hillside because the top of the hill is kind of just like a bowl, and it would kind of have standing water. So I put a little catch pond at the end of it where the water would have a place to go when it rained, you know. And when it rained, it would fill up with water like this. Well, after we put that in, several months into the season, when it would fill up, it would be this color.
Amazing.
And then by the next season, when it rained, it wouldn't fill up at all because the water was infiltrating into the soil itself. And so you're able to see that incremental healing of the soil's ability to receive that water, at the same time not being dissolved by the water and having it wash it away. And you can also see, why do you think this was floating?
Because it's lighter than the other one?
Well, what typically makes things float?
Air pockets.
So it has air in it. Do you know that healthy soil is up to 70% air? And the microbes that are functioning in your soil need air, they need oxygen. And so healthy soil needs that air in it. Here, this one's sunk right to the bottom.
Yep.
So Noah, for our demo purposes, how did you make that clay so compact? Did you wet it first?
I'll show you, let's see, what's the next one we're doing? I'll show you in just a second where I got that soil from, because we're gonna do a demonstration with some plowed soil. And I took plowed soil, and when I wetted it, later when it dried,
That's the one.
that's what it was. So you can basically, you know, if you have a neighbor that plows, you can go get one out of his field.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't, you know, you can make your own by plowing up some soil, and once you get it wet, let it dry in the sun, and then you'll have your own plod.
With plow-
I've got plenty of samples like that orange one. Plenty. I didn't tell you about it.
Okay, so what we're going to
Oh my
demonstrate
God.
next is
Yes.
Yeah.
mulched versus not mulched. Okay, so this is not actually a demonstration of plowing or not, because both of the demonstrations here are going to be plowed soil. So we have two little fields, and I have a collection of plowed soil over here. Let me get it. when you're collecting your soil samples for these kind of demonstrations, it has to be dry. Your materials have to be dry or they don't work. So you can see, this is your typical plowed soil. You know, it's nice and broken up, looks beautiful. Ready to put seeds in it, right?
But was that still clay?
Yes. I mean, it's all started with red clay. This actually came from our market garden, and I pulverized it, kind of plowed it up, but it had just rained, so I had to get it out of one of our tunnels, our hoop houses where it was still dry inside. So I'd like somebody to collect me a little bit of mulch. So just find some leaves or grass, or ideally a little bit of like some dead grass on the ground.